Welcome to Tales from the Trenches Tuesdays. Today, it is my absolute honor to have Lynne Wester on with me. For those of you who don't know, I'm a bit of a fan of Lynne. I write about her all the time in my blog, and I think that I'm so honored to have her here. So Lynne strongly believes that donor relations is the key to unlocking fundraising success, and that organizations must be dedicated to the donor experience, or as some folks call it, the DX, as they are to the ask itself. Known for positively disrupting the status quo, Lynne helps organizations when they need it the most, when crisis or opportunity arrive. Lynne and her teammates at the DRG partner with nonprofits large and small on a variety of initiatives, from developing sound strategy and vision to utilizing technology and creating meaningful donor engagement, all designed to positively impact the fundraising bottom line. In addition, she's a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, access, justice, and belonging, especially in the fundraising and nonprofit sector. Lynne regularly contributes to national publications such as the Washington Post, the Chronicle of Philanthropy, and Case Currents as a subject matter expert. She's a four-time author and has contributed to 2 other books. She also hosts the #1 podcast in the world, Fundraising is Funny, alongside Clay Buck. Lynne delivers thought-provoking fundraising lessons with keen focus on the donor experience, internationally known as the industry expert on donor relations. Her Southern accent and crucial honesty resonate in large rooms and in small ones. Lynne received her BA from the University of South Carolina, holds a master's in strategic fundraising and philanthropy, and proudly sports a doctorate from Disney Institute. She volunteers at many nonprofits and serves on the University of South Carolina board. Yeah. You know, you've been a thought leader in the fundraising world for quite some time. Well, and you've certainly shed light on some ways we can improve as a profession. But fundraising kind of all comes down to the ask. So let's talk a little bit about the best solicitation visit that you were on and why that happened to be the best.
I don't know that the fundraising always comes down to the ask. I actually think that the ask is less than 1% of our behavior with donors, that 99% of our behavior with donors is building the relationship.
Right.
And if we do that, then the ask usually takes care of itself. Usually an invested donor, someone who understands the impact that they can have, will. And so my favorite visits are those when a donor leans across or is really intently involved in the conversation and says, but how can I help? What do you need from me in order to move the organization forward? And so right. I do a lot of relationship building, and those relationships turn into donors that want to give and give generously.
Yeah, and isn't that so often the way that you know, I know many of my best visits, I never actually ask for the gift. You know, you just explain, you show some of the needs, and you figure out what the hot buttons are, and they'll turn to you and say, well, what do you need?
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So those are kind of the best. So let's flip it on its head for a second and talk about a little bit about maybe an experience that wasn't so good, or a canvas that didn't work well.
Sure. I think it probably comes mostly from my own experience as a donor. I have had some opportunities to be generous to organizations, and oftentimes I find that they're not always listening. And so the visits where people are trying to give me updates or talk about leadership or themselves. I'm a really big fan of Brian Saber, who talks about introverts and fundraising. Mm-hmm. And I think that rings true to some of the best visits I've had, and some of the worst visits I've had is that people oftentimes aren't listening to what their donors are saying. And so they're listening for things about money or things about giving, and not listening to what the donor needs and what are the key influencers maybe in the donor's life as well. And so those missed opportunities, and even just the not doing of the homework. I think the best fundraisers are those who listen, those who notice the details, and also those who have done their research, paid attention, and really do really put in the effort to be thoughtful, and really always beginning the conversation with gratitude also are some of those things. But oftentimes I feel like there's such pressure to either close a gift or that they have their own agenda, and then I go in the meeting as a donor with my own thoughts about how this is going to unfold, and sometimes they don't match, and that is unfortunate. And then the other thing for me as a personal is anyone who's late or flighty or just cancels or doesn't take the time that you allotted for that very seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so many fundraisers kind of come with their little package and they've rehearsed their script, 8,000 times, and they just can't deviate from it. And, I've been on visits where, we think that donor X would be interested in a certain program. And as you're having these discussions, you're realizing, you know what, that's really not where their passion lies. And I think the good fundraisers will stop and try and get another visit, down the road or something that lines up with the donor's values. But so often they just kind of keep going on that script and, just have to, get to the next step, right? It's very linear in their thinking.
I think so. And I think the other thing is not being able to do one of two things. So, much of my education and how to deal with people came from my work at Disney and my learnings there. And Disney kind of, if you can't pivot and think on your feet, fine. I don't expect a gift officer or fundraiser to know every answer, but I do expect the humility for them to say, you know what, I don't know, let me get back to you.
Right.
And that's something they teach at Disney is you don't have to be the expert on everything at Disney. We don't expect that. We don't expect it. But we do expect that you handle the issue. So the kind of phrase is, it may not be your fault, but it is your problem. So you're expected to do the problem solving. And I think sometimes people are quick to pass you off to someone else or make up an answer that isn't factual.
Right.
Or lead you down a path because they just don't have the knowledge. And I think it takes a really insightful, emotionally intelligent person to say, you know what, I am not versed enough to have that discussion. And I'm actually curious about this and our organization rather than saying, oh, I know. And kind of, so more curiosity, more the ability to either pivot or say, you know what, let me come back to you on that. Let me get that information. And I think a lot of people shy away from that.
Yes. Yeah. Somehow they see it as a weakness, right? That that's their kryptonite and that the donor will lose respect for them. And I think it's the exact opposite. You make up a pile of hooey and the donor is going to have no respect for you.
Yeah. And it's insulting to a person who has thought deeply about it as well.
Most definitely. Lynne, this has been absolutely an eye-opener. I think that what you boil stuff down to is just common sense things, right? Like there's nothing that we've kind of talked about that is, rocket science that you need to have, a neurological degree in. It's just treating people decently.
Yes.
And honestly and frankly. And I think that, that will go such a long way.
Yeah, and I think building relationships takes that, right?
Yeah. If folks wanted to get hold of you, how would they go? What's the best way of going about that?
Sure. Donorrelations.com, really easy. Or they can reach out on social at Donor Guru. LinkedIn, just search my name. I'm there. I love to connect. You can follow our podcast at fundraisingisfunny.com. It's on Spotify and Apple and all the other ones. Come have a laugh with us. We love to laugh. We're not trying to do anything serious.
Right.
We're literally there to laugh about the nutsiness that is fundraising. So come join us and have a chuckle some morning. It's 20 minutes of your life that hopefully you'll at least laugh half of that. So we believe in it.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Lynne.
Oh, thanks so much, Jack.
Hi, folks. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here.